December is a really busy month, and something that's been helping me out is my crock pot. And today I'm gonna share with you 2 easy recipes that are so delicious, no one will guess they came from the crock pot. And I know the holidays aren't over yet, but I'm already thinking ahead to spring, and I'll let you know what I mean by that. Hi, my name is Steph, and welcome to Hooked and Rooted at Home. It is another busy weekend, and I just got home from going to our annual Garden Club green sale, and I picked up another amaryllis. This one looks like it's gonna have 2 bloom buds, and I'm really excited about it. These are the ones that we potted up with the Garden Club about a month ago, and they're supposed to bloom by Christmas, but they look like they're a little behind schedule because we're only about 2 weeks out from Christmas. But it was a really fun time. We had a great turnout. This was year 3 of the sale, and we had quite a few people show up early, and you get the best selection when you're early, of course, and a lot of the beautiful arrangements started flying out the door, which was really exciting because we get to use the money from the green sale to do fun things with our garden club, whether it is hiring speakers to come in and give talks on interesting gardening topics, or even going as a group to visit different gardens. So it's a lot of fun. But now that I'm home, I have to start dinner, even though it's almost time for lunch. And that's the thing with crock-pot meals. They're so great because you do a little bit of prep work and then it's hands off. And when dinner time comes around, you're so glad that you did that work because you're usually tired by the end of the day, right? So the recipe I'm going to share with you today is one of the very popular Marry Me chicken recipes, but this one goes into the crock pot. And it does call for boneless, skinless chicken breast, but anytime that I make a crock pot recipe that calls for chicken breast, I usually sub that out for boneless, skinless chicken thighs because I find that chicken breast can get a little bit dry in the crock pot and thighs work a bit better. So that's what we're gonna do. I will link the recipe for this down below in the description of the video, but let's go ahead and put it together. Now there's a couple of minutes of prep involved with this crock-pot Marry Me chicken. And the first thing we're gonna do is season and sear the meat. Now any crock-pot recipe that calls for searing the meat first automatically tastes better because it adds really great flavor to that meat. Even the Mississippi pot roast that I make, I usually sear the roast before I throw it in the crock pot. And to sear it, you can use a stainless steel skillet like this, or even like a cast iron skillet, I think would give it really great flavor. So the first thing we're gonna do is mix up the seasonings. We're going to need a half a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of garlic powder, a quarter teaspoon of black pepper, and a half a teaspoon of onion powder. Mix that all up. And we're gonna season our chicken. Now I have already started to preheat my crock pot because you're gonna make this recipe 6 to 8 hours on low. And so I like to preheat the crock pot while I do the prep so it can start warming up. And you wanna season both sides. Now we're gonna warm up some oil in our skillet, and you need 2 tablespoons of butter and 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. All right, let's get the butter in first so that that can start melting and browning up a bit before I add my oil. So we need 2 tablespoons. I'm gonna put the heat on medium. Between a 4 and a 5 on my stove is usually about a medium high. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and add my olive oil. Now you can see that the butter has started to brown and the olive oil is starting to sizzle, and it's time to add our chicken so that it can sear. Now it's not gonna cook fully through. We are just going to sear it. It'll finish cooking in the crock pot. We're working on building that flavor. And once you put it down, don't touch it. Let it sit for a bit because that's how it gets that really nice golden crust. All right, it's been about 4 minutes, so we're gonna go ahead and flip the chicken. You can see how it's getting that nice color on it. And we're gonna let it go for another 3 to 4 minutes. Chicken is done searing, and before I add it to the crock pot, I'm gonna go ahead and make the seasoning mix that we need to add as well. So for that, I'm gonna chop up 4 cloves of garlic. And then we're also going to have a few more seasonings. This is still some of the garlic that I grew in my garden last year. I grew 2 varieties, the German hardneck and the music. and it's still going, which is so exciting. I still have at least a half a dozen more cloves. I did plant some more this fall because it's such an easy crop and it's so rewarding, and I use it a ton in my cooking. So if you haven't grown garlic yet, I highly encourage you to give it a try next fall. So you plant it in the fall and you harvest it at some point in the middle of the summer. So for me, I plant in October and I harvest in July. The garlic is all chopped, and so for this seasoning, what you need is 1.5 teaspoons of Italian seasoning, half a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of black pepper, and it says a half a teaspoon of red pepper flakes, but I'm only going to use a 1/4 teaspoon so that it's not too spicy for my family, and a half a teaspoon of paprika. I'm going to mix this up. We're going to mix 1.5 cups of chicken broth with 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. We're going to pour the chicken broth mixture into the bottom of our crock pot. You can see I've had it set on low while we do all of our prep work. Now we're going to add in our seasoning and our garlic. Now, the recipe does call to add some heavy cream, but we're going to add it at the end so that it doesn't curdle while it's in here for the 6 hours. So here is my seared chicken. I'm going to go ahead and place it in my crock pot. And you're also going to add in all of the drippings from when you seared your chicken. And the last step is going to be to top it with your sun-dried tomatoes. This is the key ingredient in all of the Marry Me recipes. You're gonna add 1/3 of a cup, or whatever quantity feels right to you. I'm gonna use about half of the jar. And these are sun-dried tomatoes in oil. This is what they look like. I picked these up at Aldi. They're julienne cut. And that's it. You just have about 10 minutes worth of prep, and then you let this recipe go low and slow for 6 hours. With the holidays here, I find myself reflecting about the year that's gone by and the year that's ahead. And something that always comes to mind is my health and what I'm doing to make myself feel my best. As a 45, almost 46-year-old woman, I'm noticing some real shifts in my body, and perimenopause is very real for me. Have you ever gone to your OBGYN or your primary care doctor with real concerns and been brushed off or told to just diet and exercise? It's so frustrating when you know something is changing in your body and you're not being heard. I've definitely been feeling those midlife shifts loud and clear. That's why I'm so happy that today's video is being sponsored by Midi Health, a virtual care clinic created for women by women. Midi's mission is to give women compassionate, high-quality care that's actually covered by insurance. You can enjoy virtual, no-rush visits right from home, and they accept major insurance plans in all 50 states. Midi treats a wide range of needs, from perimenopause and menopause to skin changes, weight management, and more. They've also recently added longevity care for women who want to take proactive steps to feel strong and healthy as we age, which is something I know a lot of us are thinking about. Getting started is really simple. You create an account, add your insurance information, share your symptoms, and book a virtual visit. During your visit, you meet with a Midi clinician who actually listens. If you need testing, Midi helps organize it at a convenient local facility, and follow-ups are virtual, so it's easy to stay on track. Clinicians can also prescribe personalized treatments, including hormone support, weight management, and even skincare like the Estriol Plus face cream, which helps firm, plump, and brighten skin as estrogen levels drop. And if you're looking for personalized, compassionate care covered by insurance, click the link below to book your first Midi visit. And thank you so much to Midi Health for sponsoring today's video. Now that dinner's cooking in the crock pot, it has freed up my afternoon to do other things, which is lovely, especially this time of year in December. That tends to be so busy for so many of us. So I could choose to maybe go out and run some errands, which would be insane on a Saturday afternoon during holiday season, or I could lay on my recliner with Rocco snuggled up in a blanket, which I'm sure he would love. But today I've decided to do a little bit of spring garden planning. And I have recently been receiving some of the new seed catalogs, and I'm sure some of you have as well. And so I want to share with you 3 things that I'm doing now to set myself up for an easier spring. And the first one is choosing seeds early. So this is something really simple that you can do, and it's one of my favorite things to do in the winter, just to plan ahead and dream up the next season's garden. And I have started to go through these catalogs. So far I've received Johnny's, Baker Creek, and pine tree seeds. And I'm sure there'll be a couple more that will show up between the end of this year and the beginning of 2026. And it's always a lot of fun for me to thumb through them, see if there are new varieties. But one of the very first things that I would say for you to do if you are starting to think about what seeds you're going to grow is to take inventory of what you already have on hand, decide which seeds worked well for you and you want to grow again, and which seeds didn't, and maybe you're going to pass on. And if there are seeds that you don't like, or maybe some that you did like and you want to share with friends, this is a great time of year to start planning seed swaps with other gardeners. In fact, in February, I am going to do a presentation on seed starting for my garden club. And we're going to talk about starting seeds under grow lights, starting seeds using winter sowing, and we're also going to have a seed swap. So it's a great opportunity to exchange seeds. But if you are going to buy some new seeds, there are some really beautiful varieties. In fact, in the Johnny's catalog, I've already picked out some zinnia seeds. Now, if you've been around the channel for a little while, you know that this past year, I had a little bit of a rough go with dahlias. They grew well, and I just didn't have a lot of time to dedicate to them. And so I've decided I'm going to take a little break from dahlias, and I'm going to grow a few more zinnia varieties. And there are a couple in this Johnny's catalog that are absolutely beautiful. I should have probably marked off the page, but let me find it. One of them I know is called Ballerina. It is really pretty. So the Ballerina zinnias are a gorgeous, like very light, kind of a ballet or soft pink. Very pretty. But this year they also have this one that's called Linen, and it's an improved pastel zinnia. It's from the same lineage as Ballerina, but Linen offers refinement in bloom, form, color, and overall uniformity. Like Ballerina, it produces a high percentage of double blooms, but it's slightly smaller. 4 to 5 inch blooms are more consistently dahlia shaped. So both of them are absolutely gorgeous, both the Linen and the Ballerina. But then they also have this Aurora blend of zinnias down the bottom here. So I am intrigued by all 3 of these. So this year I will be trying some of these zinnias. And of course, I still have some of my Bennery's giant zinnias that I grew last year that are gorgeous. And I'm going to grow the rest of those seeds this next spring. So the 2026 spring season. Now, as I was looking through this the other night, George marked off a type of gomphrena. And you might know that I love to grow gomphrena. In fact, this past season, I typically grow gomphrena up and down my main walkway border. And I tried the Suncredible sunflowers, and they were beautiful. They did wonderfully for me, but I really missed having my gomphrena in my walkway, because what happened was the sunflowers got so large, they grew so big and quickly, and because they were so vigorous, they kind of crowded out the gomphrena, and the gomphrena never took off. So while I did have a few plants that I was able to collect some seed from at the end of the season, I didn't have a successful gomphrena year like I had in the prior 3 years. And because I love that annual so much, I'm gonna do it again this year and skip putting sunflowers in the front border. But George marked off this sequin variety, which is a new gomphrena by Johnny's. And so I am going to go ahead and throw that into my order with those zinnias as well. And there was one more variety that I want to try this year, and that is the Camelot series of foxgloves. Now, I absolutely love foxgloves. I grow them every year. They usually self-seed for me at this point, and I have a few plants out there. The Camelot series It's a first year flowering. That's what it is. So most foxgloves are biennial, which means you start the seeds 1 year. They will work on root development and foliage in year 1, and you typically get those gorgeous spikes of blooms in year 2. So it's a little bit of a time investment, but this Camelot series will bloom on year 1. Now I've also grown the Dalmatian peach, which is beautiful, grows on year 1. They're not as tall as some of the other varieties of foxglove. So the Dalmatian peach gets only about 24 inches or so in my garden, and this Camelot series says that it gets 28 to 40 inches in height. So I'm going to grow those from Johnny's as well. In the Baker Creek catalog, I had a chance to go through this one as well. There are 2 varieties so far that I have marked off. Now I tried stock for the first time last year. It smells amazing. But the thing with stock is, unless you're like a flower farmer and you're going to grow a ton of plants so that you have lots of stems, it's a plant that takes up too much room for the small home grower like myself. So each plant that you grow, you only get 1 stem from. So it just doesn't work for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try this baby rainbow variety because it's a stalk that is branching. So I think this will be a lot more worthwhile for a home gardener. And so I'm going to give that one a shot this spring. And the other thing that I want to grow from Baker Creek is actually an herb called Orangello thyme. It's an orange fragranced thyme, and I think that will be lovely. And I haven't had a chance to go through the pine tree catalog yet, but so far I have selected about 6 or 7 packs of seeds, and I think that's a pretty good start. But I'm also going to be going through my stash and seeing what it is that I have that I want to grow again. Task number 2 that you can do during the winter to prepare yourself for spring is decide any plants that you have that you need to divide that maybe you didn't have a chance to get to in the fall. I have a geum, also known as Evans, that I have to divide. And the variety that I have is called Mai Tai. It is gorgeous. It is like a light apricot peachy color, so pretty. But what I noticed this past spring in 2025 was that it wasn't as vigorous as it has been in prior years. And that was a good indicator to me that maybe the plant is too crowded and needs dividing. So dividing my Mai Tai geum is on my list for spring. The winter months are a great time to start planning which plants need to be divided. And you can divide plants for a number of reasons. Maybe, such as in my case, you notice that the plant isn't performing as well. So digging it up and dividing it is a great way to rejuvenate that plant and to get it blooming better again. And also, if you have a plant that has gotten so large for its space that it now needs dividing, and then you can share pieces with other gardening friends, or even just to divide the plant and to spread it around in other areas in your garden. It's a great way to grow your garden on a budget by just dividing perennials that you already have. And the third thing that I'm thinking about this winter and planning for spring is any plants that need to be moved. So last season, we had a Colorado blue spruce that we had removed, and we planted a beautiful Engelmann's Bush's Lace spruce in its place. Well, not far from there, we have a Baptisia, or a false indigo, and it's the Pink Lemonade by Proven Winners. It is gorgeous, but that plant is going to continue to grow. I believe the full size of it is anywhere between 36 and 42 inches in diameter and about 36 inches in height. So for that reason, I want to move it to a place that it's going to be able to grow to its full size and be beautiful on its own. But the thing with Baptisia is that they have a really deep taproot, so I don't know how successful I'm going to be in moving it. But the third thing that you can think about in winter is any plants that need moving, and add that to your spring to-do list. So let me know in the comments, what kinds of plans are you making now for your spring garden? And have you started to decide on any seeds that you want to grow? Share them with us down below so that we can all kind of learn from each other. And here's a little reminder, friends, if you're going to be doing any kind of winter sowing this year, make sure you're starting to save some of your containers. My favorite are these water jugs because they're clear. They have this handle, which makes them easy for me to carry them out to my raised bed garden. But any kind of opaque milk jug or clear container will work. So start saving those, and pretty soon after the new year, we'll start doing a little bit of winter sowing. The Marry Me Crock-Pot chicken is done and our house smells amazing. So I cooked some rotini pasta to serve with it. And pasta, or maybe even rice or mashed potatoes would be great because there's sauce in this recipe. So any one of those could work. So you can see that the cheese has melted and the cream has thickened because of course we added the broth with the cornstarch at the beginning of cooking this meal. And let's go ahead and grab some more sauce and some of the sun-dried tomatoes. It's so creamy. This is one of those comfort meals that are delicious in the winter. And here are some of the tomatoes. And there you go. Marry me crock-pot chicken.
We woke up to some snow, and Rocco's a little curious about it. What do you think, Rocco? You want to go out there and see what it's all about? Good thing you have a coat. Rocco, you coming? You coming to play in the snow? Oh, Rocco! You decided to come out with us. Yeah, you can let go of the leash. He's okay. Hey, you're not supposed to be in the beds, though. Come on, this way. Look at his nose. Come on.
This is real close edge.
You ready to go inside? Let's go home. It's too cold. Let's go home. Come on. Let's go in. You're free.
The next crock-pot recipe is an Asian beef and broccoli. It's just as good, if not better, than takeout. Here are the ingredients that you're going to need, but I will put the recipe link down below in the description of the video as well as in the pinned comment. Now the recipe does call for skirt steak, but because skirt steak is sometimes difficult to find and can now be pricey, I have opted to go for stew beef. This works just as well and it comes out so nice and tender after it's been cooking for a few hours. So I'm going to pour 1 cup of beef broth, and then you're also going to need a 1/3 cup of brown sugar and 2/3 cup of low sodium soy sauce. Now I do use coconut aminos in place of soy sauce, but either one will work. You also need 1 tablespoon of sesame oil and some jarred minced garlic. You could also use fresh garlic. And that is it. You combine these ingredients in a bowl or a measuring cup like I'm doing here. You add a couple of seasonings such as some ginger and a little bit of the pepper flakes. Now the pepper flakes are in the recipe, but the ginger is not, but I think it's a nice touch for an Asian inspired recipe. So I go ahead and add it. You stir everything in the crock pot and then you let it go low and slow for about 6 hours. Now it does require broccoli, right? Beef and broccoli. And you can use a bag of frozen broccoli, which would be just as easy. But because I had purchased some fresh broccoli, that's what I'm using today. I've used both and both work well. And so about an hour or so before the recipe is done, you're going to put in your fresh broccoli. You can wait a little bit longer if you're using frozen because you can steam it and then throw it in and mix it into the crock pot. And about an hour is just enough to get this fresh broccoli cooked to a perfect consistency. And about 30 minutes before you're ready to serve, you're going to go ahead and thicken the sauce. And to do this, you're going to mix 2 tablespoons of cornstarch with 4 tablespoons of water. And then I always like to add a tablespoon of the warm liquid that's in the crock pot to make sure everything incorporates nicely and there's no clumping. And then you just give that a stir and you let it sit for the last 30 minutes. To serve this, you can either use some of the noodles that come in those packages of ramen, or you can use white rice. Here we're using basmati rice, but jasmine rice would also be great. And look how beautiful this turns out. It is such a warm, comforting meal for the winter. It is delicious. My family really enjoys this recipe. And you can even cook some pot stickers or some wontons on the side. And this is a perfect meal for a fake-out Chinese takeout. Well, both of these recipes are Rocco approved. He always likes to get a little beef from the beef and broccoli and a little piece of chicken from the Crock-Pot Marry Me chicken. He also wants to wish all of our friends a very happy holiday season and a Merry Christmas. Thank you so much for spending your time with us, and we'll catch you in the next one.